the greatest threat to humanity, something called an algorithm. And what got me thinking about this was an op-ed that I read in The Guardian, or actually it wasn't, it was a news report in The Guardian, in which Jaron Lanier, the guy who invented Web 2.0, the guy who coined the phrase, the term, the virtual reality, one of the great minds of the internet, told a reporter for The Guardian that he thinks that there is this little thing in the internet that has the potential to literally cause the extinction of the human race, to end humanity. And what is that thing? Well, it's an algorithm. Now, what are we talking about here? Well, first of all, humans are fragile creatures, right? We don't have fangs and we don't have claws to defend ourselves against predators or each other. We don't have a pelt or a thick fur to protect us from the elements. So how is it that we have not just survived, but basically conquered the entire planet in a mere 300,000 years? Well, the one thing, the one consistent thing, yes, we use tools, yes, blah-de-blah, but the one consistent thing that has been a core survival strategy for the human race from the beginning of time is our ability to communicate with each other and to believe that that communication is truthful and factual. That when Og comes back from exploring and says to everybody, around the campfire, right around that mountain, there's a mountain lion and he wants to eat us, that we believe him. That, somebody sees something in the light around the fire and says, oh, that looks like a bear, that we believe them. And in fact, the importance of accurate information to human survival is so great that we have built it into our religions and into our cultures. Right? There is a reason why one of the first things that parents teach their children is don't lie. There's a reason why don't lie, don't bear false witness is one of the 10 commandments. There's a reason why the stories that we all remember that were passed down are, that are the cultural stories that instruct us as children how to behave in a society, like the story of the little boy who cried wolf, have to do with don't lie. Or the emperor's new clothes, right? They all, you find these stories in culture, like the ones I just described. You find, like Eve lying to God about eating the apple in the Bible. You'll find similar stories in the Quran and in the Bhagavad Gita and every holy book. This is why we universally disparage lies. It's why we even created a legal category for important lies that we call perjury, for which you can go to prison. It's why we honor people who are particularly effective at telling important truths. We give them Pulitzer Prizes or Nobel Prizes. It's why we built protection for a free, open, and accountable press into our Constitution 231 years ago, in the First Amendment, so that future generations could rely on competent and full-spectrum information when making decisions about leadership or governance or policy. And now all of that is at risk because we now live in a country where 48% of us get all or most of our news from social media, and social media has become the way that we talk to each other. And social media is driven by something called algorithms. So when you log on to Facebook or Twitter or most other social media sites, what you see is not necessarily what the people that you follow just most recently posted. Certainly some of that will be there. That's, that was the benefit for which you signed up. But you'll also see a bunch of things that you didn't sign up for. Things that the algorithm thinks based on your previous behavior, on articles you've clicked on or people that you've read or people that you've liked or things that you've done online, it's going to feed you stuff that it thinks you want more of. particularly stuff that has a strong emotional component, because this increases your engagement, your interaction with the site, which means that you're there longer, which means they can deliver more advertisements to you, which means that the social media site makes more money. But here's the problem. When you and I are communicating, even, I mean, literally right now, I'm talking into a microphone and a camera, but, you know, I see people I've already called in. You know, there's calls on our board right now. This is a not entirely interactive medium, but, you know, people can call in and say, hey, wait a minute, you got that wrong. And if I get something wrong, I clean it up. But not so, well, you know, you could say people can hold you accountable on social media, but you're not going to hold the algorithm accountable. That ain't going to happen. And so you click on, you know, how did the election turn out? And then it says, oh, he wants to know about elections. And so so it feeds you a popular election denier. And pretty soon you're, you know, down the QAnon rabbit hole. And this is like dangerous stuff. And, you know, this guy who was Jaron Lanier, you know, one of the founders of the internet, speaking of this, he said, quote, he told The Guardian, quote, people survive by passing information between themselves. We're putting that fundamental quality of humanness through a process with an inherent incentive for corruption and degradation. The fundamental drama of this period, this moment in time, is whether we can figure out how to survive properly with those elements or not. And then he says, I still think extinction is on the table as an outcome. What he's talking about is the fact that there are, you know, not just democracy deniers and election deniers, but there are climate deniers that the algorithms are amplifying on social media. And climate change is a unique threat to humanity. So what do we do about this? Well, you know, Ron Wyden, my senator here, one of my two senators from Oregon, has introduced legislation called the Algorithmic Accountability Act of 2022, which would require algorithms to be essentially transparent. You know, algorithms, in my opinion, should be open source. They should be published. And if not open source, at least regulated. So that they're, you know, because the number one, algorithms are not programmed to try to amplify the truth, or they're not asking the question, what's important for humanity? Algorithms are asking the question, what will keep people on this site the longest to make more money for the billionaire who owns this social media site? You know, the algorithm at Twitter is programmed to make more money for Elon Musk. The algorithm at Facebook is programmed to make more money for Mark Zuckerberg. It's pretty simple. And that's not necessarily what's in the public interest. And therefore, I think it's time that we do this. Now, the other alternative solution to this is for social media to move away from advertising-based models and go to subscription-based models. The problem there is that there's a lot of people who can't afford the subscription. And then you're locking them out of social media. And, you know, there is a possible solution to that, and that is a mixed, some ads and some membership fees. And membership fees get you something more than just the ads. And by the way, this is what Elon Musk is talking about doing over at Twitter, which might actually be, if he does it right, if he does it wrong, it'll be a mess. If he does it right, it could be a really good thing. Where, you know, you start heavily funding your site by membership fees, you provide some additional benefits. People who come in for free see ads. They don't get quite all those benefits, but they get access to the whole site. But now your incentive to have an algorithm that is just insanely tweaked for the benefit of the advertisers is outweighed by having an algorithm that's tweaked to give people basically what they actually signed up for, which is, what are my friends saying? Not, you know, lead me down some rabbit hole. So I think that there are solutions here. I'm not despairing of this. But the problem that we're facing is most people don't even know what an algorithm is. They have no idea how their attention is being manipulated and trained by these sites. And it's not just these sites, by the way. I mean, you know, Amazon does this too, telling you what you want to buy. Many people think it's convenience. And in some ways it is. But it should be more transparent. So, anyhow, there's that. Also, as I mentioned, Yanis Varoufakis, the former Greek finance minister, has some thoughts on Twitter and Elon Musk. I want to share those with you right after the break.